Hello everyone, it's Jane Lambert here from A New Dawn Training, and today I want to talk to you about children and however old they are, how they are actually coping with COVID-19. Hi Karen. One of the things that I've become aware of this last couple of weeks is that many children are becoming much more clingy. Now, as a parent or somebody who has been in close contact with children, i.e. a teacher, you'll know exactly what that means. This can be a total change in that child's personality, the characteristics of their personality, because it's probably a child that isn't usually like that. And dealing with the situation of lockdown and COVID-19 can be what is causing it. So if you have allowed your children to overhear conversations with people, hi Jill, if you've allowed your children to overhear conversations with people or to overhear you discussing them with other people, you may have noticed, like we've just been saying, a change in their personality. And it can be that maybe you've told them in the beginning, oh, don't worry about it. This isn't going to last for very long. And the children then are not actually feeling like they can express themselves. They feel like the lockdown is a lockdown of their emotions. And whether it's direct or indirect, if you've spoken to them in earshot of somebody else and actually been discussing how that child's been behaving, like, oh, they won't get from under my feet, they're here all the time, it will have a massive effect on that child's well-being. You may have noticed there is a big change in their sleep pattern, a change, hi Danielle, a change in how they are actually behaving in the home. It could be they want to be sat next to you all the time. In the beginning, maybe they were getting up as normal and perhaps they were doing a workout on the television, or they were doing something like the Joe Wicks workout online. Morning, Ryan. Whatever it is that your children were doing, there was a routine there then. They got up, they did this, and perhaps they then started the schoolwork that was coming through for them. But 8 weeks has gone past now, and you may find that your child is acting very, very differently. And by that, I mean that they're starting to lose their motivation. They are starting to realize that actually, despite what they were told many weeks ago, this isn't going to be a 2-minute thing. It's not going to be all over in the next week. You may find that they're expecting to go back to school on June the 1st and are feeling very, very frightened about it. After all, for the last 8 weeks, we've been telling them they can't play with their friends, they can't meet their friends, we can't see grandparents, we can't see aunts and uncles, they can't go and play with their neighbours. And then in the next breath, we're saying, yes, it's still like that for us. We've got to queue at the shops and you shouldn't be coming shopping with us. But actually, we're going to send you back to school. Just imagine a 5 or a 6-year-old being told that, yes, you still can't play in the garden with your friends, but actually, yes, we can still send you to school. And you're not going to be able to sit with your friends. You can't share a table. You can't actually sit and share lunch like maybe you've done in the past. But what you can do is we can send you back to school. The fear that these children are feeling is real. You can't tell them that it's not. How can we expect 5-year-olds to observe 2 meters of space? Good morning, Michelle. We can't expect that of them. We're expecting far too much of them. We know the fear that we felt. If somebody leans across you in front of you at the supermarket. So for a child that's been allowed to work in a very confined space with perhaps 3 or 4 other children, and now they have to stay 2 meters apart. Just imagine how that's feeling for them. So as far as their schoolwork's concerned, how have you been handling that? Have you been giving them lots of expectations of high levels of work, of not allowing them to have a rest until it's lunchtime? Or have you been giving them lots and lots of positive praise? Whatever they've done, they are doing to the best of their ability. Think of the times where perhaps you've not felt like cleaning a particular room because, oh, well, there's only us seeing it. Have you explained to the child? Are there photographs of their work going into their teachers? I know that's being done in some schools because my daughter's a teacher and that's what she's receiving. She's receiving pictures of paintings or pictures of written pieces of work that these children are doing. But what is it that your child is getting? Are they having a phone call from one of their teachers? Or has there been very little and they're being left alone to do their work? I've heard in the last couple of days that some schools are still wanting their children, because June is coming, to do a week of exams, but at home. And somebody that I know close by told me that she'd spent a week preparing her child for the upcoming week of exams, only for the school to contact them on the morning of the first exam and say, actually, they're not going ahead because we've had a problem with the computer system. All of this will be making these children feel even worse about what they're doing. We're not giving them any positivity there. We're telling them that they're having to behave, or we're expecting them to behave in a particular way. And actually, when they don't, they are being reprimanded. We're expecting high levels and high volumes of schoolwork as if you were at school. But, oh, that's not very good what you've done today. Or, well, you only sat for an hour and a half today and did some work. How much are you actually doing at home? So these are things that we really have to think about, because as a parent, we have to acknowledge their reality. And I know a lot of parents are worrying about the trauma that we're causing children, being expected to perhaps look after a sibling for a couple of hours while you nip to the shops, being expected to do some housework, to move home. These are all things that children experience every day. But at the moment, are you comparing them to your friends' children of around the same age, but maybe at a different school? So the volumes of work that is expected is very different. Now, actually, as children, we will have all experienced some form of trauma. Maybe not on the level of trauma that these children are experiencing at the moment. It will have been something very different. We know that this is the first time that this has happened. But something becomes trauma in our lives when no one supports or defends us. So how are you supporting your children at the moment? What are you doing to help them? What are you saying about the reoccurrence of a piece of work that you don't think they've put their all into? Is it, well, I appreciate that you've done the best you can do today. Everybody's not having a good day. Are you allowing them to have a pajama day sometimes? Or is it you're being quite strict and Monday to Friday they are getting up, they are having their breakfast? Somebody even spoke the other day. Hi, Seb. Somebody even spoke the other day about the possibility of putting their children's uniform on, and I think that's going far too far. There are things that we can expect of our kids, but that isn't one of them. So this is about us protecting them from a reoccurrence later on of the trauma they're feeling at the moment, because afterwards we're all going to need reparenting in some way, shape or form. We will have to look again at our boundaries, and our boundaries are also to do with our physical boundaries. So our physical boundaries might mean that as adults, having not been able to hug or kiss the people that we love at the moment, we find that we're much more touchy-feely, and some children will appreciate an extra hug, but wait till they come to you. Talk to them about what their physical boundaries are. If even our teenagers will know that actually at the minute, perhaps a hug, an extra long hug, sat at the side of mum or dad on the sofa before they go to bed could be just what they need to get them through the next day. Too many are thinking that our kids are just floating through this, and believe me, it's far from it. Hi, Michelle. Our children are coping the best way that they can, just like we are. I find that on days, and Sunday was one of them for me, I was ridiculously tired. I didn't have a great day on Saturday, but Sunday I was really tired. And that's how the shutdown is affecting me. I'm still cancelling clients. I'm still a part of Inspire. So I'm actually still doing a lot of what I was already doing. Obviously, the only things that aren't going for me at the moment are I'm not being able to do my Reiki work, and I'm not able to do any massage. But I am very lucky that I can still counsel all but 3 clients who said they didn't want to be counselled online. They're having to have all their uni work given to them online. This is the last thing that they want on top of that. So for you, how are you doing your work? How are you utilising your time? Have you got quite a strict schedule for yourselves? Or are you actually just floating from day to day? Are you finding that you're quite bored, you're not filling your day, or like I did in the beginning, I was doing far too much? I did 2 coats of the garden fence, 3 coats of all the garden furniture, and I did all of it in 4.5 days. Now, believe me, my back and my shoulders knew about it afterwards, but it was like I felt like I'd got to do that on top of everything else. So yes, I'm still counselling. I'm still speaking to people on a daily basis, and my next client is around 2 o'clock today. But for others where they can't do their normal work, a hairdresser, a beautician, a massage therapist, it could be a specialist shop owner, the pubs, the restaurants. Some of them are utilising their time by doing some takeaway, by doing some click and collect, but not everybody's able to do that. So think about how you're using your time. Your children will be watching and taking that in and thinking, well, mum and dad are expecting me to do all this work, but actually they're bickering all the time because dad's left cups in the sink and not put them in the dishwasher, and mum's moaning because somebody left some dirty socks on the floor, but they're not actually doing any work. So when you sit down for your main meal of the day today, make sure you all sit down together, Talk about how they've handled their day. Talk about how you've handled yours. And then know and say between you that actually we will all have a better day tomorrow. Today might have not been brilliant, but tomorrow can be better. We can't do any more than that. In life in general, we can only do our best. We can only do what feels good for us. And today it might mean that the only painting your children do are painting each other's fingernails and toenails. Let them paint them with rainbows. It doesn't matter. They're not going anywhere tomorrow. Nobody's going to see their toes at school. So let them. They're using their artwork, it's craft. They're having to keep things within the lines or it's all over their toes. So let them do this. Let them utilize their time in a productive way for them. Their schoolwork will still be there tomorrow. And when people say, oh, they're dropping behind, there isn't a child in England that's actually in school and doing proper schoolwork at the moment. The children that are in school, believe me, they're not sitting down to formal lessons. They can't. They can't sit down in a classroom and be expected to have formal teaching when there's perhaps 6 or 8 of them and they're all of different ages and they're all just as frightened because perhaps mummy's a doctor or daddy's a nurse and they know that they are going to work at the hospital where people are dying. So how are you speaking to your children about COVID? How are you expressing your concerns to them? Do you let them watch the news? Or do you make sure that you don't discuss it in front of them? Because even the teenagers have got far more statistics in their heads than they need to have. So think about not just your physical boundaries around your children and what they're doing and how clingy they are, but also think about the emotional boundaries. What's okay for your kids? What's okay for them to express? And then think about the mental boundaries. Discuss with them how it's affecting them. Let them draw a picture. For some children, especially at infant school age, being able to draw a picture of their fears is actually much more useful to them than trying to get words out of their mouths that maybe they don't have the vocabulary to discuss. So talk about fear, talk about feeling frightened, but actually reassure them that they're safe, but not to the extent that they're then frightened to go out for a walk with you or frightened to get on their bikes. We've told them for weeks that they're safe in the home. So in a week's time, to try and force them all to in school when they are going to be so frightened is so wrong. So let's prepare them. Let's be sensible about this. Let's talk about them going back to school when mum and dad feel it's safe for them to do so. And we know that county to county, council to council are going to be giving very different guidelines. So if your child goes to school in Derby, and your friend's child goes to school in Nottingham, and another friend's child goes to school in East Staffordshire with somebody else in Leicestershire, you are going to get 4 very different guidelines for your children's return to school. With all that in mind, be careful what you say in front of them. By all means, discuss it with your friends, whether it's by telephone, by video, or however else you're keeping in contact, be it a Zoom meeting. But try not to let them overhear what you're talking about. Hopefully then, the trauma that these children are feeling, the trauma that we're going to be dealing with them for the long-term future, unfortunately. Hi, Susan. Thank you. This is about letting the children know, however they feel, that that is fine. It's really good for them to express if they're having a bad day, just like we do. Don't wait till they burst into tears and have a tantrum about not wanting to do a particular piece of work. Discuss how they're feeling during the morning before you even start work. So while they're getting washed and dressed and doing their teeth and having their hair brushed and having breakfast, right, what sort of, this is the work that we've got to have a go at today. Are you looking forward to it? So prepare them. Even if you've got senior school children, be prepared that they may need a little bit more encouragement at the moment, a little bit more allowance on the time that they get up, but it doesn't need to be 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Tell them you're expecting an alarm to be set, and you do expect them to be up at a particular time, and tomorrow these are the pieces of work we've got to try and attempt, so let's try and do it, and I'll help you as much as I can. My children, although adults themselves now, would be able to tell you I got so far with maths, and especially with my son. He sailed past me at a rate of knots. And I didn't always understand what he was doing, but I tried my hardest to help him in any way, shape I could. So, this isn't all about misery. Tell each other, including your children, that you appreciate their kindness. If the kids met you a cup of tea, tell them how much you appreciate that thought that was behind it, because this is a way, especially this week with it being Mental Health Awareness Week, and the main subject is kindness. Show how kind you can be the next few days. It might be that you make a lunch that you know that they really love. Hi, Sarah. It might be that you let them decide what you're going to have for your evening meal, and actually it might be that you let them prepare it with you. It's all about teaching them how we can be kind to each other. Kindness can be reciprocated in many different ways, but remember, it's an act of love, as one of the 5 love languages that Gary Sandler talks about. So knowing that there's 5 different ways that we show love, it can be, yes, in gifts, it can be in words. So if you find that difficult, that might mean that your children don't very often hear that you love them. Tell them. It might be in an act of kindness. It might be that you show your love, like we said, with a meal. But whichever way you are choosing to show your love for each other at the moment, just bear in mind that your kids might be struggling quite hard. So let them know what is going off for you. That today, just before they go to bed, tell them, I've not had the best of days today. I felt a bit low. So I hope I've not been too snappy with you. And if I have, I'm sorry. Because they're going to go to bed, rest easy, and knowing that tomorrow we're all going to have a better day. One of the things that we've spoken about on Inspire this week is that what you wear can influence how you feel. So if your kids are starting to wear dark colours again, try and get them back into a brighter colour, a brighter coloured top. Perhaps let your daughters dye their hair, let your sons dye their hair. I remember my James had bright blue hair in a mohawk and then in a Mohican for quite a while. But if school allowed him to do it, that was what we did. I remember that Claire having red and purple in her hair. It's soon going to grow out. It's just hair. And at the minute where they can't have it cut, who cares what colour it is? If it makes them feel better about themselves, let them do it. So, I wish you all a great afternoon. I hope that you and your children, however old they are, have a great weekend and you get some comfort from each other.